So what, I mean, for over 2 years really, you've been writing about constitutional reform.
More than two.
More than two, actually.
Oh, yeah,
I don't know when your first article was there, actually.
I
can't remember. I should have checked
I was
that
a provincial minister in the first provincial council.
Right. No, I'm sorry. I was referring to ground views, actually.
Oh, ground views.
Ground views. But you've been, no, absolutely.
Yeah.
You've been
From
talking.
The inception of
right. But people
seem
to think that this is a new passion.
Well, they don't use their search engines. Obviously, I shouldn't be telling them that because they belong to a generation that should be using search engines. There weren't any search engines around when I was growing up.
Which is more the tragedy then.
But my first book, which came out of Vikas in Delhi in 1995, has a very strong pitch for the 13th Amendment. To me, my commitment to the 13th Amendment is quite deep because I've seen people I respect, friends, die on both sides of the ethnic divide in order to support and defend it. And that includes Vijay Kumaratunga, that includes Deva Bandara Senaratna, who was crashing in my room 2 days before he was killed in a drive-by by the JVP in early '89. And that includes EPRLF kids, including some who went to Columbus schools. That includes my friend Padmanabha. People have died. They've fertilized this 13th Amendment, this reform of devolution with their blood. And so the commitment is quite deep. It goes way back 20 years.
You say the commitment is deep there, and I've just come from Sri Lanka. There ain't no commitment there, man. There is hotly contested debate. There is opinion published in the papers. There is, quite frankly, though, a miasma about what the future is. I mean, on the one hand, you have the likes of you. On the other hand, you have the likes of, say, Amalinda. And, you know, and it seems to be the case that never shall the twain meet. And a lot of people are kind of sandwiched in the middle, quite frankly, putting up their arms and saying, we don't really care, really, whether it's the 13th or whatever the bloody hell you call it, but something needs to be done in order to address the enduring concerns of the Tamil community post-war.
Well, that's
what is going to happen?
Well, as I wrote to Ground Views, and in fact as I told the Archbishop of Canterbury in the presence of President Rajapaksa in early 2007, I really don't think this depends on the views or the goodwill of any political leader, including the President. I do think that in the aftermath of the parliamentary elections scheduled for April-May next year, the Tamil community will be punching its weight again in Parliament because we have a system of proportional representation, and you will have a relatively undistorted representation of Tamil views in the legislature. And those representatives will bring these issues up again.
And you think they will? You think they will? That they have the capacity and the political will to do that?
Well, they will represent the aspirations, including the identity aspirations of their constituents.
You know, CPA came out with a report of the Jaffna, 880 people, social indicator had done this, and 44% as of the 30th of July had not made up their minds as to who they were going to vote for. Of course, of the people who had made up their minds, largely it was for the EPDP.
Well, the EPDP leader, Douglas Devananda, proves the point I'm making, because right throughout the campaign, he's been saying, and he's been saying this to the Colombo newspapers as well, that his stand is that the 13th Amendment must be implemented and must be implemented now, because there's no impediment to the implementation of something that's already part.
But is his stance because of who he is and what he will get to the government more acceptable, and he has more space to say that than yours? Electoral politics.
I'm sorry. You mean the government finds him
convenient?
No,
now,
I mean,
just as they found you convenient.
I don't think Douglas is doing it because the government wants him to say it.
Right.
I think the government wanted him to contest.
But is the government?
SLFP,
but is the government countenancing him because of electoral politics for now?
Douglas is the guy who survived 11 assassination attempts by the Tigers. I don't think he bothers about anybody countenancing him. I mean, he just is. So, and he's saying this, and I believe that he means it. He's positioned as a bridge between North and South, which is what both the Sinhalese and the Tamils need. The Tamils need somebody who can talk to the system and help restore their standards of living. And the Sinhalese need somebody on the Tamil side that they can talk to. And this is the guy who is at that saddle point. And he says 13 now, but let's talk about 13 plus because the president is talking about 13 plus. Let's talk about that later, maybe after the election, but 13 should be implemented now.
Other commentators like Malinda say 17. 17 first, 13 out.
Well,
apples and oranges.
Apples and oranges, chalk and cheese.
Yeah.
I mean, I wish I could think of a homegrown.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
But what shall I call it? Malung and Parola, or I don't know, whatever.
Papul, Varaka.
I mean, we can go on.
We can go on, yeah. But I think the readers will get the point.
Because the 17th Amendment.
You, Sandra.
No, that's far more congruent.
That's exactly right.
So long as you didn't say me, Malin, it's a whole other equation. But look, the 17th Amendment would help partially depoliticize appointments in the state system. Now, that has nothing to do with relations between the two major communities in the country.
But the point
we had a cleaner system until 1972 because we had an independent public service commission that was abolished by the SLFP-led coalition of that time, by Dr. Colvin de Silva's constitution. It was never brought back by Jaya Jayawardena. So if you bring it back, that's good, but that's not where it's at. We're talking. I mean, you had an independent public services commission even when Sinhala only was implemented in 1956.
But the point made, I think, I mean, I don't want to put words into Malinda's mouth, but I think the general thrust of the argument is that you take care of law and order, you take care of the independent appointment of these commissions, and everything will fall into place. And
that's off the wall.
Fireworks will go off, and then
that's
we'll have
off the wall.
Yeah.
Because an argument can be made that if you have a level playing field among all citizens of the country, then you do not have to talk about power sharing at the periphery. That is true. But that's not going to be achieved through the 17th Amendment. If you want to do that, you need a secular constitution. You need a constitution where no single language, the language of one of the constituent communities, and no single religion is given a preeminent place. Now, that is not the state of the Sri Lankan constitution.
And you have said just on that point that if I have always felt that the state should be secular,
Yeah.
or if that is not possible, should function as during Premadas, and you would have inside knowledge about this, as multi-religious, multi-ethnic and multilingual.
Yeah.
Between the two, what is more possible in Sri Lanka? I was speaking to Somavansa, quite surprising. I mean, you have a vision of the man as the person you see on the television and on the political stage, but when he came into the studio, he was a frail, old, insecure, very decent, thinking man.
Yeah.
So, that's the first thing that
Let's
strikes.
hope somebody says that about the two of us when we get
I hope so too, and that we live to that age as well. But the point I was trying to make is that he came out extremely strongly, as he would, I would imagine, for a secular Sri Lankan state, and said that the place of Buddhism is in the constitution is detrimental to the relations of our communities. Now, so there seems to be some traction in this regard from thought of quarters as well. Now, where is this going?
I mean, I think it was Jack Kennedy who said, never mind what he says, watch his hands.
Absolutely.
In the year 2000,
Absolutely.
when the Chandrika Bananayake Kumaratunga administration brought an equal opportunities bill, equal opportunities, nothing to do with power sharing with the periphery. The JVP student organizations, the Antarjatika Shishya Sammelana and so on, the Inter-University Student Federation, the Inter-University Bhikkhu Federation, these are all JVP front organizations, were in the forefront, together with alumni associations of well-known Colombo schools, in the forefront of opposing a simple, basic, equal opportunities bill. So this is, A, this is hypocritical. B, if you take your public opinion polls, CPA polls and so on, look, the overwhelming majority of the people seem to place a high value on the preeminent role given to Buddhism in the constitution, which is understandable and which is fine if the belief is that That is what is quite specific and unique about Sri Lanka, so that has to be respected. So it's going to be very difficult to tamper with that. You have to go for a referendum and it'll be shot down in flames. It is far easier to implement a power sharing agreement that is already part of your constitution.